Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the most entertaining podcast. I'm your host for this episode, Tobi Olagesin, and joining me today is Bari, a professional sports broadcaster for Pulse TV on DSTV and a big soccer enthusiast, and as well as our producer of TME, Aanu Omorodion. How are you doing, guys? Bari, Anu, welcome.
Thank you, bro. I'm great. Had a great week as well. Enjoyed my weekend. Picked up a new hobby as well. So yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Welcome.
Yeah, fantastic, bro. Super excited to speak about soccer.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on another episode as well myself. This is my second time on TME, so super excited to be talking about football with you guys again. Today's episode is going to be something a little bit more specific, more to Jack Grealish, and we're going to be discussing which clubs Jack Grealish should move to this summer. So this might be not one of our longest videos, but it's going to be something super interesting, something super niche, and I think an idea that a lot of people are going to be talking about this summer. A lot of us know Jack Grealish at Manchester City. He's a treble winner, has been part of Pep Guardiola's side for the last 3, 4 seasons, but he hasn't had the heights or reached the heights that he had while at Aston Villa. So right now, the news is that Jack Grealish is on his way out. He did not feature in the FA Cup final. Everyone knew about that, and he seemed like he was pretty upset when going to go down. Crystal Palace was on the way to winning the cup, and Pep Guardiola decided to bring on a youngster for his debut rather than Jack. And I think from then everyone was really thinking that okay, Jack is on his way out, and this might be the end of his time at
Mm.
Manchester City. So we're gonna have a three different kind of like categories for Jack. One would be the most realistic option in terms of what the clubs he can go to. The next would be the fun option where we would like to see him play, and the last one would be the wild card, something out of the out of left field, something that no one is predicting, but something that'll be very exciting for football fans around the world. So we'll start with the first section, the most realistic option. For me, I actually went with something that most people are not gonna expect, but I think in today's market where like money is a really big deal, and at the end of the day, like we all have our ideas of where we would like to see players go, but this is not football manager. This is not your career mode. So a lot of things come into play that are bigger than what we think, and I think the most realistic option for Jack would be to stay at Manchester City. And I think the reason why I go down this route is because, for one thing, he earns a lot of money. I myself I'm very surprised at how much it's taking or how hard it is for someone like Marcus Rashford to find a new club. And it's still
Mm.
down to the idea of how much money these players earn on a weekly basis. The salary is not cheap. We were talking about it beforehand that he's definitely on 300K, something around that number, which is an astronomical number, making him the highest paid player on most teams.
Mm.
So the fact that Man City is going to want to collect some money for him, they played 100 million for him, so they're not going to let him go for free, and he's probably not going to want to reduce his wages. I find it very hard to be able to find a combination of a club that will match his wages and also pay a fee above 40 million for him. So for that reason is why I think Manchester City is where he's going to stay.
Interesting take, Toby, because wow. Well, first of all, I think Jack Grealish is like the most local English lad like you could find in a good way. Look, he's a proper English boy, and obviously he loves the country. And for me, I think he would still want to remain in England first of all. But then when we bring up other factors like his market value, his wages, and potentially what position he could play, once again, I do think he should remain in England. Should I mention the name of a club that he should join or now? Okay, good. Yeah. So for me, I just think he should remain in England. He should just remain in England. And most likely, what would happen, it might just be a loan deal where Man City
Mm.
ends up paying a huge chunk of the wages, if not all, depending on the type of club that he goes to. So that's my most realistic option for Jack Grealish to remain in the Premier League, but on a loan move. That's what looks realistic to me for Jack.
That's a fair shout, and that makes a lot of sense. That's really like the trend in today's market with all the top earners. Unless
Mm,
you're on the last year of your contract and you're open to going for free, most times no one's gonna pay for you, and it's gonna have to be a loan deal where someone
mm.
picks up most of the wages. I mean, what do you think is the most realistic option for Jack Grealish this summer?
Right. So actually we can actually pick the team that he should go to. So I probably should have said that earlier. So for me, the most realistic option is I think he should go on a loan move to Palace. Palace will be playing a lot of football next season, playing in Europe, playing in the league, obviously playing a load of the cups as well. So I think in like the number 10 spots that they have in the 3-4-3, they have pretty much just three players who can play there: Sar, Eze, and Kamada. If one of those players was to get hurt, that would be a huge impact, right? So I think just for like the quality depth would most certainly be Palace. And also I think a player like Jack playing with a player like an Eze would be great because they're both two like players, right? And to like see those two players on the same team would be a lot of fun. But also, I would love to see Jack playing in the Shield as well at the start of next season too. So for me, the most realistic option would be Palace.
Interesting. The Crystal Palace shout is very interesting. I like that a lot because it's going to be a London club. And I feel like, like Barry said, he's one of the lads and he will have a good time in London. Um, but like, and that's also a big ambitious shout for Crystal Palace because that definitely takes them up a level. Right now, obviously everyone's happy for them for winning the cup, the FA Cup. It's a very beautiful story to see a new team win one of their first wins in probably most people's lifetimes that definitely support the club. They probably have never seen their team lift a trophy. Then to lift a trophy, bring someone like Jack in, that changes the perspective of them and would definitely make them a serious contender to go to Europe again next year. Barry, I know you didn't mention a club before. Do you have a club in mind in terms of for him most realistic option?
I've got two in mind. Both in London as well. West Ham and then Spurs. West Ham seems more realistic considering Graham Potter wanting to rebuild. And then when you think about the fact that there's a huge potential that Paqueta and Kudus could leave the club this summer, you know that you need options in that role. I don't see James Ward-Prowse as a number 10. I don't think Graham Potter sees him as a number 10 either. So a proper number 10 is needed at West Ham for two reasons. Majorly because they could have vacancies in that position and for competition purpose as well. Jack Grealish going there, he could be a guaranteed starter, but definitely he will be pushed. And then the Spurs as well, a new coach, new system of football that could also complement Jack. And look, Spurs have got the money, so Spurs could actually pull a surprise and maybe even sign him and offer him good wages. But I do think that West Ham and Spurs are probably, in my own opinion, I think they are realistic options for Jack as well.
I like all the options we've come up with. They're actually very, very realistic for him. And I think Jack would be open to them. If I had to critique any of them, I think the thing for me with West Ham and Crystal Palace is will they be able to pay that 300K? And I think that's the thing in my head. I'm like, well, you did say a loan move. Go ahead, Anu. Was it the loan move thing? Yeah, exactly right. You did say a loan move. So that definitely bridges the gap as well. Barry, so for like West Ham and Spurs, would it be a loan move deal or is it like a full on transfer?
For West Ham, surely it's going to be a loan move. For Spurs, honestly, Spurs could surprise us. It's not like they got a truckload of money from winning the Europa League.
Mm-hmm.
However, considering the fact that they're going to have a new coach, I believe there will be some exits and then new players coming in. I mean, less than 24 hours after Thomas Frank got appointed, rumor had it that Mbuemo is in contact with Spurs now, and then he's not looking at United anymore for now. So um, anything is possible at this point in time, especially when it's going to be the start of a new era in
Yeah.
these clubs that we've mentioned. So for me, I think Spurs. It's possible that they could pull up a very, very surprise deal for Jack and sign him on a permanent transfer. But
You know,
West Ham, I'm sure it's just going to be a loan deal.
one thing that I can say that will help Spurs is that they're one of the sides with the best like PSR position. They aren't really in a tough spot in terms of having to, pay. The only thing for me is someone like Thomas Frank, which I think is actually a great manager, and I think is a very, very good signing for Spurs. I think one thing I'll miss about Thomas Frank, this little segue we're talking about Thomas Frank, is I loved how he used to glaze Arsenal. He would, oh, bro, like pre Arsenal Brentford games, he was so complimentary. I'm going to miss that because I would never imagine a Spurs manager bigging up Arsenal pre North London derby. That cannot happen. But yeah, man, but they're gonna be bringing those comps back every game just to remind us what Thomas thinks of Arsenal. I'm gonna be enjoying that. I am sad to see Ange go. I really, really, I think it's a really, well, I would say it's a poor decision. It was the right decision, but the fairy tale in me, the romantic in me, wanted him to stay on and come on for season 3. Do you guys have any thoughts before we move on back to the main convo?
Yeah. So I think with Ange, yeah, he did well, but I think he was naive, right? So once he won, he needed to quit, but instead he waited and then he got fired. So that's like the one thing in my view where he like really, really messed up is, dude, immediately you won, bro, quit.
But he got the payout. Like, come on, man. Premier League managers don't quit no more.
Bro, fuck the day out. Straight up, man.
But I mean, then again, Daniel Levy has a fantastic record of paying buyout clauses to managers. So either way, Andrew was going to get his money.
He was going to get that paid regardless. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Ange. But, going back on Jack, we've talked about the most realistic options for him. Staying at City alone at a team like Crystal Palace or West Ham, a London club trying to make it to the next level, or something more interesting like Tottenham Hotspur, which would make them definitely a bigger challenger going into the season as a top 4 contender and possibly winning another cup. So yeah, those are the most realistic options for Jack Grealish. Now, the most fun option. This is the part that I'm actually pretty excited for because now we can bring on our football manager career mode hats and just go with what our heart is telling us. And for me, my fun option would be to see Jack Grealish take his talents over to Italy, especially Naples, and join Napoli. That is where I would love to see Jack Grealish play. And for many, many reasons. My number one reason is because the Italian lifestyle, I think he's going to love it out there. You have a good time. The paparazzi would bother him, but I think they'll vibe out with him as well. He's going to enjoy the bars, enjoy the drinking. I think that obviously, like, at the end of the day, he's an athlete and he's going to have to put in work. But I find that, in Italy, they'll let you have a cig once in a while. As long as you play well, you can have your cigarette, you can drink your drink. Just make sure you perform on the weekend. So I think that kind of culture, as long as he performs, he will do great in Napoli. And additionally, they love the British players right now. Like the McTominay, KDB joining now. He's not a British player, but he is coming with that like English vibe coming from City. And Jack joining over there will just be a great time with the lads. They'll definitely play some good football. I think Antonio Conte is a great manager, so he'll definitely have that balance with Jack in terms of performance and also letting him do his thing. So definitely seeing him in the blue of Napoli. The blue looks good on him at City. So I think keeping on with that blue jersey at Napoli would be a good vibe. So that would be very fun. I think definitely Italian football would afford him the space to have better highlights. He'll be able to dribble more, be able to get more assists, probably a little bit more goals. And I think overall would be a good place for him to take his talents, maybe rediscover who he is as a leading 10, a leading creative player in the team, and possibly allow him to come back into the Premier League with not necessarily an image or revamped image, but generally people will be like, okay, let's give him some hope. Yeah.
Okay, before I share my opinion, Toby, real quick, what position do you see Jack playing at Napoli?
I think the thing that's very sad is that the thought of a 10 in my head isn't really a thing anymore. Like people don't really use that traditional classic 10 role in football. So previously I would have said, Jack Grealish is your number 10. He plays in attacking midfield position, creating for the team, running into the box, getting some goals. But I think with the way most teams play now, I see Jack Grealish playing as that inverted left winger, that inside forward, starts out wide on the left and kind of drifts in and creates from that position. Obviously, with the Napoli lost Farasella in January, so they definitely have space, to bring in another high-profile white player that can be a creator. Right now, I believe in those positions they have Politano, who's a little bit older. They have David Neres, who's younger, also a talented player. I'm probably forgetting one or two, but I can definitely see them do with the Jack Grealish type profile, a creative player that isn't like a traditional winger, but definitely can create chances from that side. He's definitely going to win a lot of fouls, and they can cross the ball into McTominay and Lukaku. So that's a move for them right there. So I definitely see that kind of game plan with Jack Grealish.
Thank you for the clarity, because mid-season Napoli did switch from a three at the back to a 4-3-3. I was quite surprised regarding that, but hey, I mean, coaches evolve, and it
Mhm.
seems like Conte found a good balance for the team.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, considering the fact that KDB is joining, Scott McTominay is obviously still there, and for me, the unbenchable and Giza, I think Jack will need to probably settle for a place on the wing. But
Absolutely.
from your explanation of a left um a left inverted forward, it does make sense for Jack, because he would have the license to do damage. For me, I think Bayer Leverkusen would be a fun option for Jack. Florian Wirtz just is about to leave, join Liverpool. That position is there and open. But then the question is, what does ETH want to do? Is he going to maintain Alonso's system of play, or is he going to switch to his? Whichever way, I think it would complement Jack Grealish. But then another problem is that ETH just loves to buy players that he has managed. So, but then I do think that Bayer Leverkusen will be a great fit for Jack Grealish.
Question on Jack Grealish to Leverkusen. Obviously, ETH is a lot. Some people don't like him. A lot of United fans don't like him. I actually liked him. I feel like he has like his principles and he has his way. Obviously, it's very hard to compete in the Premier League, especially if you don't have the best one or two top three squads in the league. If you don't have a top three squad in the league, it's super hard to compete at the top. But the thing about it is, like, I find that he probably likes the reason why he likes players he's managed before and younger players is because they don't have that ego thing about them. He doesn't have to prove themselves. He doesn't have to prove himself to them in the sense of like, and I find a lot of times what I hear from obviously consuming a lot of sports media is that with players, when they have like that manager who's supposed to be the leader of the team, they need to see a figure that they can respect and be like, okay, this is a guy that like when Pep is talking, you gotta listen to Pep because it's Pep.
Mm.
You can't really like it doesn't get bigger than Pep. It's Pep. But the thing with ETH is that a lot of times, narratives have followed people, agendas have followed people, and people might not look at ETH as the guy who was like the manager leaving Ajax when he was like, okay, Eric Ten Hag, the manager of Ajax, that crazy Donny van de Beek, the young run that he made it all the way to the semis. That was when he was like at the peak of his powers. People don't see him that way anymore, and I kind of feel like he's not gonna wanna it top like someone like Grealish, who I don't know Grealish. We don't really know if he's like put your head down kind of guy. He's very respectful, or if he's more of those people that have an opinion. We don't know him personally. So because of my own like bias and the way I see Eric Ten Hag, I feel like the way people have, the narrative on Grealish is he might have a bit to say about himself. I might have a bit of an ego. I don't know if him and Eric Ten Hag would be the best mix. But because Bayern Leverkusen have lost that Verts kind of figure, Jack Grealish going in there, he will tear it up in Germany, that's for sure. He will actually perform really well there. But yeah, that's what my only thing about it though. But it is a very fun option.
So for me, the most fun option, yeah,
Yeah.
the club of Johan Cruyff, AFC Ajax.
Whoa.
They need a left winger. They need
Crazy.
a left winger. They've been playing Steven Berghaus there last season. He had 7 goal involvements in the league, which isn't great, obviously. They have a few players who are like fairly young and they're not of like the highest quality. And I think that a player like Jack would be huge for the squad profile, huge for the player as well. Because I know that for a club like an Ajax, they will be playing in Europe as well. So he'll most definitely start off the left wing, but also in like central midfield. They have players like Klaassen, Henderson, Van den Boom, and Taylor. These players, they're not exactly flair players, are they? Right? Probably Klaassen, maybe like 5, 10 years ago, right? But
10 years
not
ago, right? Yeah.
yeah, straight up though, like when he like just moved to the Premier League, right? But it's like he would be like the only player in there who's like proper creative, proper. So I think just for like the fun of it, right, has to be Ajax for me.
I really don't like how I keep coming up with these negative point of views wanting to critique the move. But like, would Jack want to go to an Ajax? You know, like, wouldn't that be like a severe step down in terms
bro.
of perception as a
Whoa, whoa,
player?
whoa. It's Ajax, bro. It is Ajax. Whoa, a severe downgrade in perception. It's the biggest club in the world. It's Ajax, bro. Chill out.
Unfortunately,
Well,
people don't think Ajax is the biggest club in the world.
yeah, but I mean, in terms of Ajax on its own, if you're just assessing Jack Grealish going to Ajax, I do think it's a good move. However, like when you then think about the Eredivisie, you think about the country itself, Netherlands. I mean, Jack is already on cigs and alcohol. Do you want him to add weed to it? I mean, I'm joking, but I'm
Yeah,
just thinking. I just think that the Netherlands is probably not lively enough for Jack Grealish. Jack is he's the life of the party, and I think the Netherlands might probably be too dull on him, in my opinion. But yeah, I know what do you think.
So I think because he has a teammate there and like a Henderson, he might be
Mm,
able to like be like his captain, right?
fair enough.
So I think with that, he should be able to progress there still.
Mm. That's if Henderson decides to stay. I know he's got offers as well. Funny enough, but yeah, um, let's see what happens. Let's see where Henderson is at the end of the transfer window.
I know this is another segue I'm about to bring up, but I found it interesting when you mentioned that do you really consider Ajax the biggest club in the world? Do you mean like historically or as of like right now?
Probably historically, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
every day, their position in what they've done for football is immense. Johan Cruyff and everything that they've done to create that 4-3-3, that fantastic style that Barcelona adopted and kind of took over, definitely is Ajax. But
Mm,
unfortunately, when the social media age, where like people create ideas and perceptions a week ago and it becomes law the week after. So like, if Jack Grealish was to say he's gonna go to Ajax, like they're gonna start saying he should not. If he ever gets called up for England again, people are gonna revolt on that because like they're gonna say he's left the top five league, he's not playing at that level anymore, and they'll be like, nah, he doesn't deserve it. Give another player that plays in England a chance to come play rather than Jack. So those are the kind of things that like I would definitely see those narratives coming up just because he plays at it might be the best team, top two team in the league, but because it's not a top five league, people are gonna look down on that move, unfortunately.
mm,
Yes, yes. But the thing is, he can't make his move based off of socials, right? I mean, so it's
Mm,
like, look, the goal here is he needs to play football straight
yeah.
up.
mm,
Question for me
mm,
for you guys about Jack Grealish. Do you feel like what do you think would matter most? Because every day, like we talk about players and their desires, their dreams, and some players are definitely following that sporting merit. Like when Salah decided to stay in Liverpool again, you could tell it was from a love of the club as well as wanting to compete at the highest level. He could have followed the money, but you could tell that money wasn't his number one. So now with a player like Jack, we don't know Jack. What do you think, Jack? Because every day he's won it all. So does he still have the desire to want to fight and win more? Does he want to just play football because he loves the game? Is he trying to make money and keep his 300K salary kind of thing? Like, what do you guys feel like? What do you think would drive Jack when he's making his decision, or is he focused on trying to play in the World Cup next year? What do you guys think?
mm, mm. Honestly, I thought about it as well. A couple of minutes ago, before I shared an opinion. I don't know what on, but I thought about the fact that Jack won the treble recently. Um, he's been to the World Cup with England. Or rather, he's been to the Euros with England.
Yeah,
Um, was he at the Qatar 2022? Did he make the squad for
um,
England?
I want to
Yeah,
say
he
yeah.
was.
I feel
Oh
like Jack
yeah,
is.
good. So
He might
I
not have
mean,
started for
he's
them, but he definitely was
yeah. So I mean, he's competed at the Euros. He's competed at the World Cup. He's competed at the Club World Cup last year. He's won a treble. Sincerely speaking, Jack Grealish has probably completed European football. So the question is, what does Jack want? Does he still have the hunger? And I think two things might fuel Jack's hunger. Number one, he probably wants to redeem his image as a good footballer, you know, a starting footballer, because the narrative online is crazy. Even just neutrals, they say everyone just keeps saying we miss the Jack Grealish at Villa, and obviously Jack is on social media. I remember him responding to some trolls on Instagram like 2 weeks ago. So he sees these things and he reads them. The second thing, the second factor for me is the fact that Jack is such a family man. from what I've seen. Yeah, he's a huge family man. So when I then put that into perspective, I think to myself, and probably Jack might not want to leave England, as I said when I'm speaking about the most realistic option. So I don't think he would want to leave England. I think he would want to reinvent himself as one of, you know, the best players in the Premier League. And he has the ability to do that. Is he going to be one of the best players? I don't know. But I do know that he needs consistent football. He needs an enabling environment. And he needs a manager that will put an arm around him and say, look, son, I know you. I know you've still got it. This is your team. I'm going to give you the license to do and undo. I think Jack needs that. I think he needs a bit of a hug, and then you would see the best of Jack Grealish again.
I really go ahead, Anu.
So yeah, on the family point, I'm like fairly sure he like had his first kid like last year or like the first months of this year. So that will undoubtedly play a huge part, right, in the move that he makes. So yeah, and with regards to the gaffer, I think the manager at a certain Ajax, Heitinga, was literally just the Liverpool number 2. So I think in terms of him having like a proper understanding of like the English way, I think he should have that, right? So
Mhm.
look, it's like not me trying to sell the move per se, but it really just makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think what the both of you have said makes a lot of sense, and I do like the categorization that Barry used for Jack because you really don't hear that point of view about him often. I think when I watch media and they talk about Jack Grealish, they talk about what could have been, they talk about the trouble he has won, and they talk about the odd video outside a bar that people used to categorize him as like some kind of party animal, but it's not that crazy. People do go drinking, okay, and usually when you go drinking, you're not sober when you finish drinking. It takes a while. And people are going to use that clip to make it seem like he's doing some crazy stuff. But there's a lot more wilder football players out there, that's for sure. So we've talked about the fun options for Jack. It's either going to be Napoli, Leverkusen, or Ajax. And I think in all those three teams and in those leagues, he would definitely be very, very successful. And we will be able to, see that Jack Grealish of Aston Villa taking players on, creating chances, and just being free to play his football. And now the last part, we're going to talk about the wild card transfers. Something that's, before I said the front option was out of left field, I think we're even going to go further left than there. So the first one for me is I really thought about like, you know, Jack Grealish's motivation. And I definitely feel one thing's for certain, I don't think him and Pep have the best relationship. Would you guys agree with that? I think everyone would agree with that. And I think the thing
Yeah,
for me with that is that I feel like he wants to prove himself and not only just show Pep that hey, I'm that guy, but also win the Premier League on over Pep the coming Premier League season. So my wild card transfer, which personally I don't like, and I don't want to see this, but I see him making some kind of a loan move to Arsenal. Um, the reason why I go into all of that is because Arsenal has a very weird uh thing for loans with Chelsea and Man City, or taking players from Chelsea and Man City that played there. And some of them have been great. The first 3 months, 6 months of Gabriel Jesus' career at Arsenal was fantastic. I thought I saw shades of phenomenal coming back. That was what a time to be alive. I love that. That era was beautiful. But you have players like Zinchenko who have also had like great times at Arsenal. But as you can see, some of these players are on their way down. And the worst of all was definitely Raheem Sterling. I don't know what that was. Let's not talk about that ever. But the reason why I see Jack Grealish making sense for Arsenal is that Arsenal has to do a lot of transfers this summer. We definitely have to go get that big striker. We definitely have to get an additional winger. We're going to be bringing apparently Martin Zubimendi, who's going to cost 50 to 60 m, and we're looking at an outlay of like 150 to 200 m to be able to like not only just keep us at that second place, but make us the best team to win the league. Because at this point, it's kind of clear to everyone that Arsenal's goal is to win the Premier League. So the reason why I like the Jack Grealish move, I don't like it. No. The reason why I see it as a wild card move is that a lot of things come into it. It allows Arsenal to be able to get that striker, get that winger, get that CDM Zubimendi, and then they can get a fourth player, an additional player who could either play kind of like on the wing. He can play on the wing. Martinelli can play on the right. Rotation options for players. and he can also play a creator in the middle. Kind of, if Odegaard has to step out, or if Nwaneri isn't able to play, Grealish could play and be that creator for Arsenal. So he ticks off a lot of positional solutions for us. And the last thing is, like Barry mentioned, he wants that team that he can get playing time, that manager that will put his arm around his shoulders, encourage him. And I think Arteta will play that role very well. Obviously, Arsenal's going to play 60 plus games the coming season. They're going to try and compete on all fronts. And Jack Grealish will definitely be able to be that guy that can do really well, play in the cup games, play in the Champions League, have sub minutes on the Premier League. Obviously, it's going to be hard for him to be a starter, but I know Mikel Arteta, he's going to be the kind of guy that'll tell you, hey, everyone's on the same level. If you fight for the shirt, you can have the shirt. And it really leaves it up to Jack to be able to prove himself to the team. And if he, happens to be with Arsenal and win the league, he gets to have a one-up on Pep and kind of show you, hey, look at me, I did it. So that's the reason why I went for the Arsenal call. Not really mostly about Arsenal, but more about him wanting to say to Pep that, hey, I won this league without you, I think that thing would be a big driver for him to perform. And I could have picked Liverpool, but I don't really see him in the Liverpool shirt. I don't know why. I think maybe because Arsenal always goes for Man City and Chelsea players a lot. That's why I feel like it was a more clear link between, Grealish to Arsenal. But that is my wild card shot. I know it's crazy, but that's what I kind of see in my mind's eye for Jack Grealish. Barry?
For me, I think my wild card option is going to be Everton. It's Everton for me. A new start, a new stadium, a manager who knows the history of the club, someone who saved them from relegation last season. And obviously, the new owners are going to trust David Moyes. In fact, they do trust David Moyes. That's why they brought him back. And he has repaid the faith in them. And obviously, with them finishing strong. And Everton have got a couple of players who, honestly, if you add Jack Grealish into that mix, they will look like a really, really strong and dangerous team on their good day. On their good day, not all the time, because obviously the competition in the Premier League is crazy. But however, when you're thinking about, let's say, mid-table team, like thinking about teams that are probably going to be lurking in and around that top six, top seven position, I think I would tip Everton to want to compete. Not that they will necessarily end up there, but I do see Jack Grealish at Everton working with David Moyes.
Wow, Jack Grealish to Everton. I didn't expect that one, but thinking about it now, Everton. I don't remember where they finished in the league. It definitely was between 11 to 15. I think that's where they probably ended up in this past season. And I know they'll want to go for that top 10, maybe even Europe, maybe an eighth place finish would be their goal. So if you get a Jack Grealish and you replace a DCL, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, then I do see them making a run. They have a great midfield. I think Moyes is a fantastic coach. All his experiences, in different clubs at Everton previously and Man United, at West Ham, has really brought him into the mold to becoming a very, very competent, strong Premier League manager. And I definitely see, them working well. The only issue for me, well, if it's a loan move, it could happen. If it's a full-on transfer, very difficult. But that's definitely a wildcat shot for Jack Grealish. Anu?
Yeah. So the shout for the Toffees, I really don't hate it, but the thing is, like, I think for Jack, he's like a bit too flash to play for like a northern club, right? So, cause like they like the blue collar people and all that who like they work hard and they're like from like the area and all that stuff, and he's not really hitting all those boxes, man. So I don't hate the shout, but I really don't see it happening. As for the Arsenal shout, bro, he needs to play games, and he is just not going to play at your club. And so for me, like it's not that I hate the Arsenal shout. It's just like it would make no sense for him to leave a place where he's on the bench to then move to a place where he'll
He'll
be
be
on
on
the
the bench
bench.
again. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So for my wild card shout, and it truly is a wild card, guys. Truly, Fenerbahce. Fenerbahce is my wild card. So they have a space on the left wing after Saint Maximin left, right? And he actually played quite well there, played fantastically there last season. And they literally have no one who can play there. And I know right now, in terms of their top target right now, it's Son. But in case they manage to not get Son, I think a player like Jack would be fantastic playing for a Mourinho team because he would have a lot of space to run into, right? I think playing for a Man City side, a lot of the time he's like had to face low blocks and stuff. And when he's playing for a side that won't exactly be ball dominant, I think that would be the most ideal thing for him. And also he can also play in the 10 as well. I know they had Dusan Tadic there for 2 seasons. Was fantastic. He had 24 goal involvements each in his 2 seasons there. So he was amazing playing in the 10 over there. I think as a replacement for a Tadic, a player like Jack would be simply fantastic for them. So for my wild card shout, Fenerbahce.
Wow. That is truly well. To be fair, initially I did think it was a wild card shout, but when you said Fenerbahce, I was like Turkish football. I do see that mix with Jack Grealish and Turkish football, and I think with I think Leroy Sané is going to Galatasaray. I think that's what's happening. If I'm not mistaken, they're paying him a lot of money. He's earning that kind of 300K kind of salary, in Turkey. So I think what could really happen for Jack in Turkey is like if they go with like because his I just looked it up. His contract ends the summer of June 2027. So obviously, they could do something like a loan with an obligation. They pay a loan fee 5M, an obligation of 10M, cover all his wages. And, if they add a few on add-on clauses, depending on if they make champs or if they win the league, you know, City might do a deal where they could collect 25, 20 million back, and then they don't have to pay his salary at all. I could see that kind of happening for him at Fenerbahce. That would actually be a very interesting one, definitely a wild card one. But the thing is that we don't have a crystal ball, so we do not know what's going to happen. But I feel like one of the clubs we have mentioned today, Jack is definitely going to be at that club coming in the next season. The question is like, who is it going to be? What kind of structure will it be? And will Jack actually perform at this new club? So thank you guys for joining us. Like and comment on anything you agree or disagree with. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of our next episode where we'll be discussing rebuilding the great Manchester United. Have a great week, everyone.